Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to watch my presentation. My name is Allison Pager, and I'm a student in Wildlife Ecology and Conservation at the University of Florida. This is a poster presentation for my Wildlife Techniques course, and today I will be presenting on capture methods for the pygmy rabbit. Pygmy rabbits are native to North America and are the only North American native rabbit species known to dig its burrows, which is important to this presentation on capture methods. These rabbits are very small and they're fast and they have quick reflexes, which is along with the burrowing abilities is why they're very hard to capture by hand and why these methods are being evaluated. So I'll be examining these top current capture methods and comparing their positives and negatives to evaluate the most efficient and humane way to capture them. To begin with, we have the Tomahawk Trap, which is a type of box trap, and these are usually used along with a bait or a lure or scent, and they have a trigger mechanism. So they are set up outside of the burrow. And then when the rabbit exits their burrow, they enter the trap and then the trigger mechanism would activate. Some pros associated with this trap are its ability to be paired with the baits. They can help entice the rabbit out, and they can be covered with burlap sacks, for example, to be camouflaged, or with like natural vegetation to blend into the surroundings. And the covering can also aid in protecting the rabbit once it's in the trap from like the sun, from too much heat, from predators. And they can also be easily maneuvered to increase the probability of capture, like around the burrow, depending on where the burrow is at. And a researcher can theoretically set the trap and then return at a later time instead of waiting around for the rabbit to come out. There are some cons associated with this method. It can impact the rabbit's behavior, so it can stress them out and cause them to burrow and refuse to come out once it sees that there's a trap outside of its only entrance and exit. And there's research that shows that this can result in injury, erratic behavior, and sometimes death for the rabbit, along with influencing the data that's collected because the behavior becomes different. And along with that, heat is a concern, and predators accessing the trap is a concern, and injury due to the trigger mechanism. The next method is the Noose pole method. This is the use of any type of pole and line material to construct a loop that can be manually controlled to open and close, and it's just dangled in front of the burrow out of sight, so the rabbit comes out of its burrow, and then the researcher would close the mechanism and the loop would close around hopefully its upper body and one of its hind legs. Some pros associated with this method is that it's low cost because of the materials, and usually you can capture multiple at once, since if you're in a highly populated area and you have multiple volunteers, you could capture multiple rabbits. And it has a low impact on the environment because you're not disturbing the environment around the burrow. And hopefully ideally the rabbit would be captured for a limited amount of time. It would be quickly transported to a containment area. And then some of the cons associated with this is that it takes a lot of time and energy on the part of the researcher, and there's a much higher risk of injury for the rabbit because it is such a physical way to capture it. And there's an increase in equipment failure, so extra materials would be needed usually, and the equipment can fail during or after the capture. And finally is the fabric fence method. This is the use of different materials to build a fence off of a burrow that funnels into a capture or containment area. And the fence acts as like a physical guide and with that like a corralling mechanism. Some pros is that this method is less invasive for the rabbit, and this method can result in less stress for the rabbit, and it can be set up and left for various amounts of time depending on what is at the end of the funnel if it does need to be checked multiple times. And there's less effort needed from the researcher in actively capturing the rabbit, and less chance of injury for the rabbit as well. Some cons associated with this is that if the fence is not hidden correctly, we have the same issues of it impacting the behavior of the rabbit that we discussed earlier. The setup can also disrupt the environment depending on how it is used, and a risk of like impacting the rabbit by making it burrow into its hole and not come back out. So the final conclusion is that after evaluation of these three methods, I found the fabric fence method to be the best in terms of efficiency, evaluating the risk factors and the required effort. This method is recommended along with modifications, and this includes using a box trap or a transport container at the end of the funnel so that the rabbits are immediately funneled out and then taken to wherever they need to be taken, and that means less time in a trap. Along with that, the fence should be made from a camouflage material and as many natural materials as possible, and then the use of a bait to lure the rabbit out and funnel along to the intended area. And to avoid further injury and stress, the container should be checked continuously. Along with that, I've included my references on the poster. There was a lot of great research done that I used on how the different capture methods work, and a lot of data on their impact on the rabbit itself. I want to thank you for taking the time to view this presentation, and I invite you to interact and leave any questions, concerns, or suggestions in the comments below. Thank you. Have a good one.